Hello and welcome to Midas Markets Daily News. Let's kick off your trading day with the latest financial news and market headlines.
Hi traders, this is Jason with the market update. The US dollar extended its weekly decline after fresh US inflation data reinforced expectations for a Federal Reserve rate cut next month. President Trump intensified his calls for lower rates, fueling further selling pressure. Treasury Secretary Bessent urged a series of cuts, hinting the Fed could start with a 50 basis point move. Such political interference threatens the central bank's credibility and could weaken the dollar further as traders increasingly price in aggressive monetary easing. WTI crude traded near $63, hitting its lowest level in over 2 months. The drop followed bearish supply outlooks from both the US government and the International Energy Agency. Investors are watching closely as President Trump warned Russia's President Putin of serious consequences if he obstructs Ukraine peace talks. The IEA raised this year's supply growth forecast but cut demand expectations, while OPEC Plus projected tighter markets next year. All eyes are now on Friday's Trump-Putin summit in Alaska, though analysts doubt it will trigger new sanctions on Russian oil. Gold retreated from last week's highs above $3,400, settling in the $3,335 to $3,340 range. A weaker US dollar and lower 10-year Treasury yields have reduced the cost for overseas buyers, boosting demand. Expectations for a Fed rate cut in September have strengthened following soft CPI data and weaker July jobs numbers. On the geopolitical front, European and Ukrainian leaders are meeting with Trump ahead of his talks with Putin, while the US and China have extended their tariff truce by 90 days. On Thursday, the yen briefly strengthened to around 146.37 per dollar, its highest in 3 weeks, as expectations for US rate cuts this year weighed on the greenback. The Bank of Japan faces pressure to drop its inflation gauge tied to domestic demand and wage growth, limiting scope for further tightening. Governor Kazuo Ueda remained cautious, noting core inflation is still below the BOJ's 2% target. The euro fell sharply on Thursday, dropping 0.57% to 1.163 after US inflation data surprised traders who had been pricing in a slim chance of a 50 basis point Fed cut in September. The US producer price index accelerated sharply, driven by higher tariff levels, while jobless claims fell from previous readings. In Europe, Q2 GDP grew 0.1% and July inflation held steady at 2%. Trade tensions linger as the EU faces a looming 15% tariff on many exports to the US, posing fresh risks for the Eurozone economy and its currency.
We hope you enjoyed today's market outlook. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment below. Remember to join us tomorrow morning for the freshest news.